We just got to be smarter and sharper, or they're going to start taking away each and every person that steps forward to do anything positive for the community.
Compton police claim to have identified the Cadillac that was the shooter's vehicle, a rental car, the only white Cadillac rented in Los Angeles that weekend. Las Vegas police claimed they never received that information. According to the Los Angeles Times, 2 days after the shooting, 2 Crips were seen in Compton driving a white 1996 Cadillac bearing a rental sticker. An informant told the Compton PD that Crips had visited a car stereo shop whose owner also did bodywork. They believe that the Crips brought the car to the stereo shop to have damage repaired. The Times also goes on to claim that the Compton police found that a Carson Enterprise rental car agency had rented such a car to a man with possible ties to the gang underground. They took a photograph of the car and detailed their findings in a report. Compton investigators say they gave this additional information to Las Vegas police. Manning said his detectives never received it. If any part of the Compton Police Department report regarding a rented white Cadillac is to be believed, you have to start with the fact that it was a rented car. Someone would have had to have rented it, used their license, given a credit card. Yet, to date, no copy of the rental contract has ever been released by the Las Vegas police, nor has the name of the person who rented the car been made known as fact. Unless the Compton Police Department is willing to extend the gang rivalry theory to include the employees of Enterprise, it stands to reason that an identifiable person, provable in any court-competent jurisdiction as evidence, could be identified and possibly charged as an accessory to the murder.
I think that the reason a lot of it was covered up is because most people that worked for death row security had a badge of some type. And I think the ball was dropped right there. I think people had badges, they didn't want to push the issue, and they chose to overlook looking at death row. And when I look at all what's happened with Rampart, people that we had working for death row, or we had Los Angeles police officers working within the organization, Compton police officers working with inside the organization, that is where it failed.
Yeah, you had a lot of guys with badges. And I would think that those guys who were hired by Shook and were with him that night would have been interviewed by the police. But I mean, maybe they know something.
When you have police officers interviewing police officers, I believe a code of silence came and took place in Las Vegas.
I found that there was a tightness. Everywhere you went, there was like this tightness that nobody wanted to. It was almost like people were afraid to talk about the case. I mean, there was a weird sort of ring around the investigation that was tough to penetrate. And I was getting a lot from cops inside, and I did report that Metropolitan Police in Las Vegas were on Suge Knight's payroll.
For security themselves, they were quiet. No one was saying anything. So deep down inside, I personally believe them badges stopped us from getting to the truth.
Was it possible to buy off the police and prosecution of Las Vegas to cover up illegal wrongdoing on the night of the murder? If you ask Vegas strip club owner Michael Gallardi, as part of his FBI informant testimony, it was. In one interview with the FBI, Gallardi said that he maintained cash reserves or club banks of $75,000 at Cheetahs and $125,000 at Jaguars. Typically, the policemen would each have access to $500 per visit. The practice of catering to policemen started from the time Gallardi said he opened in 1990 to buy drinks and lap dances for those individuals. All told, Gallardi implicated at least 11 police officers, all of whose identities were removed from the documents obtained by the Las Vegas Sun. Gallardi told FBI agents that he dealt directly with 2 local prosecutors. Gallardi estimated that one of those prosecutors received $10,000 worth of sexual favors, lap dances, and drinks. He also claimed to have given at least $5,000 in services to 2 other prosecutors. Finally, over a 10-year period, Gallardi estimated that he gave judges in Clark County a total of $100,000 to $200,000. Could they have also been paid off by those with the means to do so to cover up the Shakur murder? One thing that Gallardi, the man who bought off the police and judges, shares with Knight: both were represented by George Kalisis. For his part, Sheriff Bill Young told the Las Vegas Sun that the activities of the officers did not rise to the level of crimes. Apparently, bribery and corruption isn't a crime in Las Vegas anymore. And how do now retired Sheriff Bill Young and George Calisis still keep in touch? They are both on the board of directors of Hookers for Jesus, led ironically enough by an ex-prostitute arrested more by Young than any other officer. And what of Gallardi? Was his word any better than those he accused? As a star witness for the FBI, it apparently was. What about the former detectives of Compton? Were they so sure that they had their man with Anderson, that after 10 years their informants have come up with nothing new? Police often use informants to help investigations move, but informant information can be considered unreliable.
This was probably around, I'm going to say June, possibly July timeframe. We were going into the House of Blues, and it was just a hangout day. We were going there. Pop wasn't performing or anything like that, and there was this guy there, and it was a brother. He was a tall guy, and he was patting everyone down as we were going through that entrance. Hussein Fatal is one of the backup outlaw singers, and when he patted him down, Fatal had a gun on him, and it was a Glock 40 cal gun, handgun. Pac was pissed. He was pissed, and he said, "Frank, go put this fool into the limo." The story picks up now with Kevin Hackey. Kevin Hackey has said this in the Fox interview that he and I did in December of 2007, that incident that happened at the House of Blues with that gun was that Reggie had him go over to Santa Monica PD, pick the gun up, and take the gun back to Reggie.
About 2 weeks after that, I was contacted by Reggie to go over to Santa Monica Police Department to pick up this firearm. He stated once I gave him that firearm, he gave it back to his daddy, who at the time was a lieutenant with Compton Police over the gang division. He said his daddy booked that firearm in the property.
Kevin picking up, taking it to Reggie, Reggie giving it to his father. Paper trail ends there, or the story with the gun ends there, other than the fact that when Compton PD did a raid after Tupac's death in Compton, they found a 40 cal Glock in a bag. Okay, that belonged to Orlando Anderson, I believe.
Chuck Phillips wrote a controversial story published by The Times on September 6, 2002.
Chuck Phillips came along because he was an award-winning writer. He had some credibility.
In a piece titled, Who Killed Tupac Shakur, and based on unnamed gangland sources, Phillips wrote that Shakur was killed in Las Vegas on September 7, 1996, by members of a Compton gang called the Southside Crips. According to Phillips' story, the triggerman in Tupac's killing was an LA Crip named Orlando Anderson, who was later killed in an unrelated matter.
The first time he wrote it, it sounded really weird. But there was, because of his credibility and because of who he wrote with, you thought about it, but it didn't make real sense because you gotta know it was bigger. And then one of my sons said to me, Chuck Phillips is on Suge's payroll. Oh, okay, then that's the end of that.
Biggie Smalls in town, because Biggie Smalls was in a New York studio cutting a record that night.
Mutulu Shakur, in an open letter to Biggie Smalls' family, stated, as a matter of fact, Afeni and I have never supported a Crip versus Blood feud.
Now when he comes back and he writes, because he called us to tell us he was going to write it. Now he's back on, because what he did there is what he did then. Is he took a little bit of some truth and he put other stuff in it. Because in 94, when Pac got shot, Biggie came to the hospital. Biggie stayed at the hospital that night.
That was supposed to be a book deal for him. He's coming out with this article, and that was going to get him a book deal. He already had a book publisher interested, and it never happened because Biggie Smalls' mother immediately cried foul.
Biggie retrieves one of the weapons to give to the cousin, whatever that was left there. Biggie was there that night as shocked as anybody else in terms of what you're looking at.
And, her son was in New York, and how could they not verify? How could the reporter not verify Biggie Smalls' whereabouts when you're accusing him of murder in a 2-part series in the front page on the Sunday edition of the LA Times. You think you would have gotten that part confirmed and want to confirm it with a little gangbanger out of Compton. It was so wrong.
What I know is that night when he got shot, Biggie was at the hospital, and he was not at the hospital gloating.
People in I was dealing with talking to people in the entertainment media who were just shaking their heads. How could he possibly get that wrong?